Hey everyone, this is Laura with Logarithmic Astrology, and I'm here to give you the astrological update for the week of May 11th through the 17th, 2020. And I'm going to show you my chart again, I'm going to show you my screen. Give me 1 second, here we go. So, starting on May 11th, which is Monday, we have Mercury right here, making a square to Mars over here. So squares are 90 degrees between two planets, and every sign has about 30 degrees in it. So you can kind of see, if we kind of count 30, 60, 90. And squares are kind of filled with some tension and some strife and challenge, and they're not super comfortable. And Mercury is a planet that rules over our minds and how we think, how we talk, how we communicate and exchange ideas with other people. And Mars is the god of war, and can be a little bit impulsive and fast-paced, and wants to fight a little bit. So this could be a day where you might find yourself in some arguments or some debates, or maybe you even might say something that you were like, oh, where did that come from? Mars can be a little bit impulsive, so it can be, speaking impulsively, or speaking honestly, speaking your truth, even if it can be a little bit cutting. That's kind of the nature of Mars, is to be cutting. This would be a great time to debate, to have an argument if you find that entertaining. It's also, you might have a strong desire to connect socially. Mars represents our energy, how we take action, our motivation. And when it's making contact to Mercury, the planet of our minds, there's a really strong urge or impulse or desire to make plans, to connect socially, to talk to someone passionately. So if you can, it would be a good time to be able to release that energy by scheduling like a Zoom call with someone, or maybe like a social distance walk or something, just to get that energy out, because it might be a little bit anxiety provoking otherwise. There's going to be a lot of energy and a lot of mental energy, a lot of wanting to exchange ideas and concepts with other people, especially with Mars in the sign of Aquarius. It's a very lofty, philosophical, high-minded sign. So, but just be careful about saying something that you regret, saying something too impulsively, talking before thinking. These are kind of things that might come up. And with the square, definitely a possibility that could result in some tensions with someone. Later on in the day, we have, let me just move the chart along. Go. 3 more hours. Okay, so you can see that Mars finally moved into Gemini. This is still Monday, May 11th. Or did I say Mars? I meant Mercury. Mercury moved into Gemini. So Mercury, is being the planet of our mind, how we think, how we communicate, is in Gemini, which is actually in its home sign. This is the Mercury's domicile, meaning Mercury feels at home in Gemini, is able to accomplish its goals, a planet here. Gemini is a mutable air sign. So mutable signs are signs that are at the end of a season. So this is the end of spring. And so mutable signs are always very flexible, adaptable, changeable, kind of good at doing things on the fly, able to change plans easily, but sometimes can be a little bit scattered. And so, Mercury is definitely at home in this sign, but there could be a tendency for the next 3 weeks to a month or so, when Mercury's traveling through Gemini, to be a little bit more scatterbrained, or, have your mental focus on too many things. This could really stress people out who are maybe more used to having Mercury in a fixed sign, like Taurus or Scorpio or Leo or Aquarius. Mercury in Gemini is very, oh, that's interesting, that's interesting, that's interesting, I want to do all of them. And so it could be a little overwhelming depending on your personal chart. Gemini is an air sign, so air signs are all about communication, socializing, and connecting with others. And so this is a time when our minds and our mentality is really focused on socializing and having that buddy next to you, having that friend with you, and being more connective. This is a time when our minds are more focused on networking, getting out and socializing and kind of chatting it up, really expressing our ideas to each other. There's a huge theme of curiosity with Gemini. Gemini is hugely curious, playful, inventive, mischievous. So with Mercury entering into Gemini, these themes could come up with yourself or maybe with people around you. So it should be a pretty good time with Mercury in Gemini, just with regards to mental activity and how we are connecting with people. So, oh, one more thing about Gemini is they're super like able to see multiple points of view. They're very what's the word, like sometimes they can struggle with committing to a certain perspective because they can see all perspectives. So this could be a good time where you can kind of do pros and cons of something and really be able to weigh something out. But there can be some indecisiveness as well, so just watch out for that. Okay. So moving right along, on Tuesday, May 12th, we have, you can kind of see the moon has moved out of Capricorn, but I forgot to mention the moon was just in Capricorn, passing over Pluto and Jupiter on Monday, and you'll also feel this a little bit on Tuesday. And so it might be kind of a challenging day, a little bit depressing maybe. The moon is the mood of the day and passing over Pluto and then Jupiter, and then it's also just passed over Saturn. There could be a sense of restraint, emotional restraint, or feeling held back, or maybe your emotions turning towards a darker side. So just something to think about. But also this is when Mercury is making a trine to Saturn over here. Trines are positive, flowing, supportive, full of ease. Mercury is our mind, our mentality, and Saturn is, whenever there's a trine with a planet and a malefic like Saturn, usually the more positive qualities of Saturn come out. So this is more like commitment, dedication, an ability to get the task done, being able to push through, being able to concentrate. So this is a great day if you have any heavy like mental activities that you need to get done, or maybe work involving a lot of concentration. This is a great day to do it because you'll have the energetic support there. And especially with Mercury in Gemini and Saturn in Aquarius, two air signs, this is a great time to, focus on kind of loftier ideas and maybe more idealistic ideas or high-minded ideas that are more philosophical and perhaps even more kind of heady. Maybe at other times of the year this would be a more challenging, like if you were to talk about philosophy when Mercury is in Taurus, probably not like the best energy to support that unless you have your natal Mercury in a sign like Aquarius or Gemini. But just a good time to kind of connect with people on more philosophical, heady, high-minded concepts and to concentrate and get something done that requires concentration. So another thing happening on this day is Mars. Mars is about to move into Pisces. So you can see the planet Mars just went into sign of Pisces. This is well, I guess it said this is on Wednesday. I wrote down Tuesday, but this is, I guess, Wednesday. It could be Tuesday in other parts of the country. And regardless, you'll feel it anyway. It's not necessarily, this is going to be felt pretty much for 6 weeks. When Mars moves into Pisces, we'll have it there for 6 weeks, so it'll be a theme. And this is great because this is when Mars gets a break from being in the same sign as Saturn. Mars has been co-present with Saturn in a Saturn-ruled sign for the past 12 weeks. And Saturn is the planet of restriction, limitation, isolation, quarantine. And so, I mean, we've already kind of seen restrictions starting to be lifted with the quarantine and with COVID and whatnot. And so, and this is starting to be reflected in the astrology as well, as Mars moves away from Saturn in a Saturn ruled sign. Saturn rules Aquarius and Capricorn. Mars moves into Pisces and is able to get away from that restriction, isolation, commitment, abide by the rules type of energy. And so it's good. That's, it's a good break for sure. But the thing to watch out for is with Mars moving to Pisces, there could be a sense of acting upon things that might be a little over idealistic. We could be starting to act based on fantasy or illusion. Because, and I say that because eventually Mars is going to move into Aries. Like this is going to be, in 6 weeks, Mars move into Aries. And once it's in Aries, it's going to start making a square to all of these Capricorn planets up here. And so that kind of leads me to think that we're not quite done with this virus, and I'm not quite sure what that will entail. Potentially another quarantine situation. All I know is that that square that Mars makes to these Capricorn planets is not going to be fun. When Mars first entered Capricorn and it started approaching all these planets in late Capricorn, that's kind of when we saw the spread of the virus. So Mars moving to Pisces is kind of like la la land. It's like, oh, like fantasy land. Let's take action based on our ideals and on what we want to do. And, things are great. Things are, going back to normal. This is kind of the illusion part. So just want to be careful about that. Not to say that we shouldn't, be happy or be excited, but I definitely want to caution people to not be too excited or get your hopes up too much, because Pisces is a sign of illusion and disillusionment and fantasy and disappointment and rose-colored glasses. So just kind of beware about that. Mars and Pisces, Pisces is a water sign. Mars is the god of war, the god of action. Mars and Pisces is kind of like trying to run in water. So, if you're normally a Mars and Aries person, or Mars and any of the fire signs or any of the air signs, this might feel kind of like slow. Like I'm trudging through water and I can't move as quickly as I want to. Definitely a good time to kind of relax and veg out a bit this month, and maybe focus your energies on more creative fronts, and maybe even more spiritual fronts, or spiritual, having a more spiritual focus if that's something of interest to you. But yeah, definitely also, not a great time to get super organized. Pisces isn't really known for being organized or detail oriented. It's more creative and fantasy land and imagination and, compassion and forgiveness. And it could be a good time to start volunteering somewhere, but definitely maybe more challenging to get things done, to be more practical and discerning. This is not a great time for that. So we'll have that for about 6 weeks. And let's see. Okay, so you can kind of see here that so on Thursday the 14th, and this will also be Wednesday in certain parts of the country. So we'll be feeling it as well. We've been feeling it this whole time for the past week. Venus right here is turning retrograde. So this is Venus. She's turning retrograde. You can see that R. And this is happening at 21 degrees of Gemini. And this is happening pretty much while Venus is making a square to Neptune in Pisces at 20 degrees of Pisces. And so we're going to have Venus retrograde until June 25th. And Venus is a planet of relationships and love and beauty and art and how we attract, how we invite things into our lives. And so whenever Venus or really any planet goes retrograde, there's this concept of reviewing, rethinking, reflecting, reorienting. And with this happening with Venus, it's all about reviewing, reflecting, rethinking, reorienting with regards to relationships, because she's the planet of love and relationships. And you know, with this square to Neptune, Neptune is a planet of what I idealize and what I dream of. And so there's definitely a quality of hope and optimism with Venus and Neptune, but with the square, there's a challenge, there's a tension there. There's, you know, potential for disillusionment, for disappointment. You know, you might have high hopes or, you know, really think highly of someone. If you just started a relationship, you might think you're in love and that this person's the best thing in the world. And they, you know, not to say like that you're not in love. I mean, totally enjoy that feeling, but also know that there could be an aspect of illusion here. And there's definitely an aspect of wearing rose-colored glasses and maybe not seeing things exactly as they are, or just seeing, maybe even just seeing things in a more beautiful light at this time, which is beautiful. But, you know, there is also that potential for disappointment and disillusionment after you feel the hope and optimism. And to kind of know how that'll go for you, maybe ask yourself, what is your personal barometer for experiencing hope and optimism with relationships? Are you the type of person that first meets someone and you just fall in love like within a week? Or are you the person that's like more discerning and selective and more just kind of like, not good enough? Because you got to know your own barometer to know more about how this will affect you. If you're the type that does fall in love within a week, like this will definitely watch out for this one, because there could be a lot of disappointment and a lot of beauty and experiencing love and all of that. But with Venus and Gemini, Gemini is a sign all about communication. So this is a time of reflecting, reviewing, rethinking on communication and relationships. Have you really spoken your truth if you're in a relationship? Have you communicated with your partner about your desires and your needs? There might be confusion even about what you want in a relationship or what you want in general, and confusion about how to go about communicating that. So yeah, we're gonna kind of see this, you know, Venus, she's traveling retrograde. She's still squaring Neptune pretty much for the whole month of May. I mean, you can see it's May 23rd here. I just moved the chart, and Venus is still at 19 Gemini, making that square to Neptune. So, oops. Yeah, pretty much the whole month of May. So just watch out for that and be aware. And then so Thursday on the 14th, I think it's the 14th. it'll be Thursday/Friday. We're starting to feel it already. But we're going to have Jupiter station retrograde. You can see that S, that stands for station, meaning the planet is stationing and stopping, standing still. And then basically in preparation to turn backwards and travel over the same degrees that it just traveled through. So Jupiter is joining, we just had Saturn turn retrograde last week. We had Pluto's already retrograde a couple weeks ago. You know, now we just have Venus retrograde as well. So we have 4 planets retrograde going backwards in the zodiac, covering degrees that they've already passed. And so this is just basically bringing up the idea of revisiting themes that we've experienced in recent months. So once again, this, and especially with Mars moving into Pisces, I think it's really important that we don't get our hopes too high and we stay cautious as we move forward, and we don't get too hopeful or too optimistic, and we just kind of stay grounded in reality and in the possibilities. So then Thursday, or actually Friday, so still on this day, the sun right here, 24 degrees of Taurus, makes a lovely trine to Jupiter. Trines are optimistic, positive, flowing. Pluto's all about power and, you know, even wealth and what's underneath the surface, which could be either gold or rot. You know, if something has been somewhere for a really long time or hidden, it could either be something super valuable or it could be trash. But essentially, this with the sun trining Jupiter, or sorry, Pluto. The sun is passing over a territory that Mercury just passed over this past week. And so similar themes will arise. But this is a day of being, you know, hugely motivated, being maybe very intense, having very intense desires, very passionate. You know, there's the phrase thy will be done kind of came to mind because Pluto is such a powerful planet. And so especially between Friday and Sunday, because Sunday and then leading into the following week, the sun's pretty much making a trine also to Jupiter, because Jupiter and Pluto are still pretty close together, and so you can't really talk about only one of them. And you know, Jupiter's is a planet about travel and philosophy, higher learning, long journeys, whether that's mentally, physically, or spiritually, and combined with Pluto, like a really intense, passionate yearning for a journey of some kind, and or you know, and being very powerful and confident in that stance. Great time to take action on something, and you know, be successful in what you want. Great time to yeah, really kind of do anything that you have the motivation to do on this day. Especially good for if you are a Sagittarius sun or rising sign, or if you're a Pisces sun or rising sign. This is especially good for you to take action on any plans you may have or any goals that you have, because Jupiter is your ruling planet. And so it should be a really positive day, but also intense. Positive, but intense and deep and investigative. So yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much the week. I hope that you enjoy this video, got something from it, and feel free to comment to let me know how the week went for you, and I'll be back next week for another update. All right.